Welcome to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. We're applying the mind of Christ to the matters of the day so that you can connect the eternal with the everyday and get ready to head out into the world that God so loves in ways that honor Jesus. So let's get started. This is The Reconnect.
Encouraging you to live as an ambassador of God's kingdom in the world.
This is The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge on Faith Radio.
If we're gonna fly, we fly like eagles, arms out wide. If we're gonna fear, we fear no evil. We will rise. By your power we will go. By your spirit we are bold. If we're gonna stand, we stand as giants. If we're gonna walk, we walk as lions.
Here's a question for you. Once you're going to write this down, you're going to put this question in your pocket. What do you think the temperature was in the Garden of Eden? What do you think the temperature was in the Garden of Eden? I'm Carmen LaBerge. You're listening to The Reconnect. And yes, we are going to reconnect the eternal with the everyday right here and right now in a conversation about Adam and Eve who lived comfortably without clothing. So it must have been like warm enough for that. We hear that they walked in the garden with the Lord in the cool of the day, so presumably in the morning. So nobody's got any clothes on. So I'm thinking mid-70s, right about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think the temperature was in the Garden of Eden? The text line is open, 877-933-2484. Yes, I want to know. Before the fall, when the climate was perfect, when people needed no clothing and, frankly, no shelter, right? So no protection from extreme cold or heat, no protection from storms. So in the pre-fall paradise of Eden, what do you think the temperature was? Text line is open, 877-933-2484. What's your perfect temp? Here's a good conversation for you as well. What do you set your thermostat at? During the day and at night? You got like a sleeping temperature? What's the perfect temperature inside and out? So those are some conversation starters. Why bring this up? Well, it's really hot. It's really hot right now in some places in the world. And if you tell me that you're setting your thermostat at anything, then that implies that you have a way of controlling the temperature inside your house, which this time of year in North America implies that you have air conditioning. So this leads me to the news headline acknowledging that the overwhelming percentage of people in France do not have air conditioning. Oh, yes, here you are on the text line. Let's see. Karen says 73 degrees. That is the perfect temperature and therefore the temperature in the Garden of Eden. Mike in Duluth says 68. Lois says mid-70s. Darlene, 75. TJ says 72 with a light breeze. Yes, I'm with you. I think there was probably a light breeze. Oh, Sandy is adding that it is a low humidity. See, it's a good conversation starter. Tim has lost his mind. Tim says, Tim's saying this number because seven is regarded like numerically as perfect. So he says that the perfect temperature is 77.7. That's a little warm for me, Tim. Just going to go ahead and say so. Okay. So there you see it's a fun conversation starter, right? What was the temperature in the Garden of Eden? Like people walking around naked. It's the cool of the day. They need no coverage whatsoever. So what's the perfect temp? And we don't live there anymore. This is like super good evidence that we don't live there anymore. If anybody needed evidence that we live a long way from Eden, this is a good conversation to have. And take what's happening in Central Europe right now, or Western Europe in particular, because we're going to bring France particularly into focus here because it's leading the headlines in terms of Europe, which is it's trapped right now under a massive summer heat dome. And there's a high level of concern for human life because there's a lot of heat-related deaths and people drowning because in order to cool off, they're jumping in rivers and canals and and they're drowning. So there's something that, when we talk about weather phenomenon, I'm always amazed the words that I learned. Like, while being a radio host, I learned the word derecho, um, cyclone or bomb cyclone storm. Like, I've learned all kinds of crazy things. Well, I've learned a new one today, the omega block. There is a weather pattern called the omega block, and it is trapping hot air from northern Africa over Central Europe. And so temperatures across France have spiked above 110 degrees. In fact, 112 degrees in one location. Temperatures in Paris, which, is a bit of an asphalt jungle now, hit a June record of 105.6, making the country temporarily hotter than 99% of the rest of the planet. France is not supposed to be that hot. It is not supposed to be that hot there. So it's historic, it's catastrophic. In order to cool off, as I have mentioned, people are trying to find water sources that they can get into, but that has resulted in at least 55 people drowning within 1 week. And there was a lot of other heat-related fatalities. Public spaces like the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre, which are not air-conditioned, cut their visiting hours short. And then here's the rub. The vast majority of French homes, French schools, many French public buildings, their transportation networks completely lack air conditioning. They don't have air conditioning. And those ordinarily prized upper level flats in those traditional Parisian apartments, well, they are now totally uninhabitable because they have zinc roofs. And that has basically turned those upper level flats into ovens. It's a crazy situation and scenario. So Marine Le Pen, who is a conservative political leader in France, has called for a massed subsidized rollout of air conditioning. This will not surprise you. Leaders of the Green Party have resisted that because of the further impact on climate change. But they have now conceded that some places, like schools and hospitals, quote, just can't do without it. So if you've arrived at the place where you just can't do without air conditioning, and yet you are concerned about rising global temperatures that are climate change related, which is contributed to by air conditioning, you're in a pinch. You're at a pinch point. And so that conversation is just beginning. And it won't just be France that wants to have it. I want to bring you up to speed as well on the earthquake aftermath in Venezuela. We talked yesterday about back-to-back earthquakes that had struck Venezuela the night before. The number of dead accounted for is now 235. However, everyone expects that number to rise. Some 4,300 people are known to have been injured. Both of those numbers are going to rise. We're talking about extensive damage across Venezuela. The U.S. Geological Survey issued an estimate based on just the pictures that they're seeing. And they expect that the death toll could be possibly in the thousands. Well, it will almost certainly be in the thousands. And yes, Christian aid organizations are mobilizing quickly, many of them already responding and have response pages on their websites. Samaritan's Purse, Convoy of Hope, World Vision, Send Relief, Operation Blessing, Catholic Relief Services. These are all Christian aid organizations that have already begun to mobilize and have response pages on their website. So if you want to help, there are myriad ways that you can do that. As you might imagine, logistics is a huge issue. Ports are damaged across Venezuela, and the airport in Caracas remains closed. A portion of the airport collapsed, and many of the runways are severely damaged. So the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela also has a response page set up if you would like to know what is happening there. And then you're also going to hear lots of folks say, hey, this is a wake-up call, or should be a wake-up call. These are the strongest earthquakes in Venezuela to strike the country since 1900. And yes, what happened there could happen here. Research related to Southern California's San Andreas and San Jacinto fault lines are now at the highest level in 1,000 years. And so what happened in Venezuela could happen here. Like, it is time for us to talk about that kind of catastrophic event. And Jesus told us to expect it. Our friend Adam Holz joins us next from Focus on the Family's Plugged In. You're listening to The Reconnect. Our friend Adam Holz is back from Focus on the Family's Plugged In. We're going to take a little look on the radar, what's happening out there in the world of media and things we need to know about it. But we're going to begin with the playground. I want you to think about the playground where you let your toddlers loose. And would you let your toddlers loose in a Netflix playground? Adam, welcome back to the Reconnect.
Thank you, Carmen. Always good to be here.
We do have a critical question this morning for you, and that is,
Yes.
What do you think the temperature was in the Garden of Eden?
Oof. I heard you asking that question because I got on a little bit early. Boy, I am going to go 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Low humidity.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I think that the first person who added low humidity to then I was like, oh yes, that's my friend. I do feel like the humidity
The Garden of
situation.
Eden was not in Minnesota. I'm just saying. It also wasn't in Texas or Florida.
It's hard. It is hard to imagine, but it is an opportunity for us to talk about how far we live from that reality. Okay,
It's a
tell
long
us
ways.
what we should be concerned about. Netflix has built a playground, and they think we should set our toddlers free. What is happening?
So, Netflix, you may not know, also does video games, not just movies. And so the Netflix Playground is a video game app for young kids with video games related to a lot of TV shows and franchises and properties that parents will be familiar with. So Gabby's Dollhouse, Peppa Pig, Bad Dinosaurs, Sesame Street, Dr. Seuss. And these are just fun, simple games that really littles can play. So there's two ways I think I would think about this. I would think in terms of content, and then the bigger philosophical question of the role that screens have in our kids' lives. In terms of content, it's pretty innocuous. There's not anything that's making me clutch my pearls or facepalm here. These are fun little games that are not going to, send your kids tripping down the road to hell with, a candy basket in their hand, right? We're not in Hansel and Gretel territory. However, maybe we are, because the fact that we have an app that really is designed for young children, I think ought to be raising some philosophical, fire alarms. Sorry, that was redundant. In our minds, because, okay, timeout. Can we just push the timeout button? There's so much research that shows that virtually nothing good comes of screens for little minds. And frankly, we could have a conversation about how much good comes for older minds too, right? And look, I get it. I have 3 children and I have raised them in this age. And there are times when handing them a digital pacifier is pretty tempting. But we also know that kids are doing that. Parents are doing that more and more. I saw another related study recently that showed that children are talking later now because mom's on her phone and she's not talking to them as much. And so I think that we need a bigger conversation about when do we let our kids engage with online material, whether that's on a tablet, a phone, a screen. And I would say the later, the better. That would be our stance.
That is really helpful. We'd be happy to send you guys the links to what we're talking with Adam about. You can also just find them at pluggedin.com. But if you want us to send you the links, let us know on the text line, 877-933-2484. Netflix and this sort of kid-centric game platform is one of the topics on the radar. And so why don't you talk with us about the other things that are on the radar, particularly like I thought the parental faith impact
Yeah.
was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and we didn't talk on the radar last week, so we've got a couple weeks, so we have more to talk about than usual. I think as parents, sometimes we can lament the fact that we're trying to inculcate values in a worldview in a world that largely repudiates them. And we can be pessimistic about that. We see stories, I feel like we've seen stories from Barna for a generation about how kids are
Hmm.
losing their faith and that sort of thing. Although that pendulum has begun to swing back, which would be a different conversation. There's a lot of evidence that Gen Z is embracing faith in a way that perhaps millennials and Gen Xers didn't as young adults. However, having said that, there's also research that shows that when parents do two things, when they are living out their faith in a way that their kids can see, and I think that means, do your kids ever see you reading your Bible or praying? But it's not just performative spiritual discipline stuff. I think it has to do with, are you talking about God? Are you talking about how your faith influences the decisions you're making from day to day? Maybe that's how you're spending your money. Maybe that's how you're spending your time. Are you talking about how your faith impacts the way you relate to your friends? Are you talking about how your faith impacts the way you deal with your friends' bad habits? We're in California in a public school, and a bunch of my teenage daughter's friends smoke pot, so we talk about that. And the other thing it says is, to the extent that parents really cultivate relationship, as opposed to, I would guess, maybe just legalism, that those two factors, living out your faith and cultivating a relationship, correlate with a higher percentage of kids embracing and keeping the faith as they get older.
I think that passing on to the next generation what we in turn have also received, like this way of recognizing that faith is intended by God to be transmitted, not just
Yes.
generation to generation within our families, but certainly generation to generation within our families. Like, that is your first mission field. If you're
Yep.
listening right now, you do have first authority in your child's life. And that child has been entrusted to you by God, and that's a sacred trust. And so we
Yeah.
want to encourage you, and the resources that are available at Focus on the Family and Focus on the Family's Plugged In, like, that's what this is about. Like, we want to be in this together with you as parents and grandparents. Okay, I found this part of On the Radar super, like, staggering, and so I want to read it, and then I want to go to a brief break and talk about it when we come back. So the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy reported that 130 million Americans, so 54% of adults in America, read at or below a 6th grade level. Okay, it's not just Bible literacy, it's just basic literacy that's on the rocks here. We're going to talk with Adam Holz about a post-literate reality in America. And what that means, including in the workforce. That's up next here on the Reconnect. When was the last time someone asked you to pray for them? When's the last time you asked someone to pray for you? Here at Faith Radio, we pray with and for you about the concerns in your life, and we share with you the concerns of others. We are a praying people. So we want to invite you to share your prayer request with us. Our team prays continually and intentionally once a week for the requests that we receive. And so share your prayer requests with Faith Radio by texting or calling 877-933-2484. You can share your prayer requests with us, and you can be confident that we are praying for you. I want you to think about the fact that if you can't read, then you cannot read the Bible. And if you cannot read at even a 6th grade level, you're going to have a very difficult time engaging with the kind of study of Scripture that, frankly, is necessary and is important. And so I was stunned. Adam Holtz is here with us from Focus on the Family's Plugged In. I was actually just stunned by this note that is in this week's On the Radar, might be last week's On the Radar, But it includes this. The Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy reported that 130 million Americans, or 54% of adults between the ages of 16 and 74, read at or below a sixth grade level. And so this piece, Adam, really deals with how AI is masking that, but
Yep.
the statistic itself is troubling.
Yeah. No, I had the exact same response that you did. I thought, what? That can't be right.
Hmm.
And I think that without like putting on my full sociological hat, tinfoil hat maybe, there are probably a lot of factors that influence that, not the least of which is, your socioeconomic status, education level, that sort of thing. But I would also come at it from the perspective of we're living in a time where we're encouraged to skim through information to get exactly what we need right now as fast as we can. Everything about our online existence or the way we interact with content online is high speed skimming, not reflective mulling. And I confess, I don't feel like my comprehension is that bad, but I'm so used to high speed skimming that I miss stuff in people's emails all the time, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm looking for keywords, I'm looking for sentences, and so some of it's comprehension, and some of it I think is the fact that the way we interact with content online has conditioned us to consume it without really, thinking about it. And so I suspect that is in the mix too. And it actually correlates with one of the other on the radar stories that Google is liable for false AI overviews. When you do a Google search now, you get this overview, and it's going to get actually, well, depending on your perspective, much better or much worse because Google is basically about to become the source of everything, and you won't even have links or anything come up. It's just going to be, like you would get from ChatGPT. But the thing that stood out here is that only 1% of those who were looking at an AI overview clicked one of the links related to the content that had been created. And I thought that was telling as well, especially for the vast quantities of people out there producing content, and Google gets to just take credit for all of it. And in this lawsuit, they basically said, look, when Google gets it wrong, you are liable for that mistake. So there again, I'm conflating two different stories here, but I think reading for enjoyment is not something we do culturally in the way that we used to. And apparently it's not something we do very well at all. And I think we all suffer for it.
I think our inclination as people who want others to be as interested in and engaged with scripture as I might be, my inclination is, okay, well, let's just have an audio version, or let's share the Bible with people in ways that they will consume it, audio
Yeah.
and video. Like let's accommodate the fact that people aren't readers. But I also know that, like, it is true that leaders are readers and readers are leaders. There is some truth to the fact that you certainly limit the number of options available to you in terms of influence if you cannot read and read well
Yeah.
and read widely.
Well,
And
and,
so
and,
if
and
you're,
I,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I would just want to encourage people. There are ministries out there, like Literacy and Evangelism International, and they've always focused internationally. But it occurs to me that you could use the Literacy and Evangelism International resources right here at home, and you could use the Bible to teach people to read. And that's sort of something you could do in your local church, or you could do even in your own home as an outreach. Your neighbors are not reading, and they're not reading because they're not literate. And so maybe
Right.
we could press in on that topic.
Yeah. And forgive me for interrupting you.
No, you're
All
good.
of it makes me think about the movie Wall-E. Do you remember the
Mm.
Pixar movie
Mm.
Wall-E about the little robot?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you have? You have this space barge or space cruise ship full of fat, overweight humans who just float around on little couches and everything is done for them. And that is such a haunting vision for me because I feel like in so many ways, it feels like we're rocketing toward that, where we don't think, we don't engage, we just mindlessly consume. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Wally did a great job of satirizing that in a really fascinating way.
Okay, that's a good segue into some quick movie reviews. Um,
Yes.
I don't think we have to talk about Supergirl, but let's talk about Death of Robin Hood.
Yeah. Death of Robin Hood might sound like an interesting title. You probably want to do a hard pass on this one.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman plays an older Robin Hood. It's hyper violent, a lot of profanity, deeply cynical. I mean, there are a few redemptive elements here, but for the most part, this is an exercise in deconstructing the Robin Hood myth in about the most violent and cynical way you can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm. And then next week, because we won't be together because of the July
Yes.
4th holiday, you want to give us a little what's opening over 4th of July holiday week?
Yeah, I mean, the big one is Minions and Monsters, which will be the latest Minion movie. We haven't seen it yet, but I can guarantee you there will be plenty of bathroom humor and giggling, and probably bare minion bottoms because that never apparently gets old for anybody. And, they will have antics. They apparently take over Hollywood and unleash craziness there. And the other one that is totally different is Young Washington, which we have a review up of already. And as the title implies, it tells the story of a young George Washington trying to make his mark on the world as he tries to earn not only the heart of the woman that he has fallen in love with, Sally Carey, but enough social station to be able to pull it off because he is not of a social position high enough really to merit her family's attention. So that's a John Irwin film from Angel Studios and the Wonder Project, and it's terrific. They do great work, John and his brother Andy. That one will be worth seeing.
I love that. All right, so big thumbs up for young George Washington. And then, yeah, your kids are probably going to want to see Minions and Monsters, and I think it takes place in like
Banana.
1920s Hollywood, and so I think they're looking for, I think they're looking for monsters to be
Yes.
there, like to fight again, something like that.
Yep.
We're
Something like
probably all
that.
going to see it at some point because we have kids and grandkids, and that's it's the
Right.
Minions. They're
It's the
yellow for
Minions.
those of you that don't know. I mean, it's just if you've been wondering. Um, Adam, thank you for joining us. Have a
You
wonderful
bet.
holiday week.
I will do it. I'm headed to Ensenada, Mexico on a mission
Ooh.
trip to build a house with the ministry down
Oh,
there. So
oh,
that
that's
will be fun.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, we look forward to your mission report when we talk to you next.
We will chat, and my daughters are going, and I'm curious just to see how the whole experience unfolds. So we'll do an update in a couple weeks.
That is fantastic. All right, that is wonderful. All right, you are listening to the Reconnect. When we come back, we're going to do the Friday Farm Report. We're going to talk about Ben and Jerry's new flavor, milk and honey, but you can only get it in Israel. So I don't know. Maybe you're traveling. You could let us know. That's up next here on the Reconnect. Okay, we have some follow-up questions on the text line, particularly related to literacy and reading. So, your questions illuminate the fact that you are English specific. The literacy conversation is not just about whether or not you can read English. It is about whether or not you can read. And so literacy rates, literacy statistics are about the language that you speak or is first for you. So you are correct, those of you pointing out that those literacy rates, if we're talking about English, are definitely influenced by people who are not, or maybe who, let's see, not first generation, not at least second generation Americans, right? So you're right. You are right that non-English speaking people who live in the United States of America do not read English. That is true. But we are talking about literacy in general. And so if they are readers of their first language, they are considered literate. So it's a complicated conversation for sure. I definitely think that teaching English teaching English is good, and is a way to promote English literacy. But using the Bible to teach people to read, regardless of their first language, like I'm advocating for that. 54% of U.S. adults, 17 to 76, don't read. They don't read. So literacy, which language that we're talking about is certainly important for those of us who communicate in English, but it's a bigger conversation than that. And the issue is real and the need is great. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of things here in just our time together on this Friday. Ben & Jerry's has a new flavor. This caught my attention because of where it was reported. And so CNN reported this, and I thought, well, that is such a curious place for them to be talking about a Ben & Jerry's new flavor called milk and honey. Get this, you can only get it in Israel, which is kind of funny to me because that is the land flowing with milk and honey. So Ben & Jerry's Israel is no longer actually an affiliated with the Ben & Jerry's company that you think of as, based right here in the good old US of A. Why? Well, because the Ben & Jerry's corporate version of Ben & Jerry's that's based here doesn't really like Israel. They just don't. But they have a Ben & Jerry's, it's a totally exclusive to Israel Ben & Jerry's. It looks like Ben & Jerry's. In terms of its labeling, I don't know. Anyway, obviously it's printed in Hebrew. But there's this incredible, somebody had this idea that in order to stimulate, bless the southern Israeli communities that were directly affected by the October 7th, 2023 cross-border attacks by Hamas, that they would begin developing products that used resources from that region. And so the vanilla ice cream that is the base of this Ben & Jerry's milk and honey exclusive to Israel flavor, the vanilla ice cream is made with milk and cream from a kibbutz that is located on the Gaza border. And then the honey is sourced directly from beehives in a kibbutz called Yad Mordechai, which lost a number of entire families in those October 7th, 2023 attacks. And then the mix-ins, which feature chocolate fudge pieces uniquely shaped like the Star of David, are crafted by Shuklav Tov, which is a social enterprise in Beersheba that integrates people with disabilities into the workforce. And so obviously, if you're a student of the Bible, you know that the phrase "a land flowing with milk and honey" is this famous biblical description of the abundance and fertility of the promised land of Canaan, the land that God promised to the Hebrew people. It appears dozens of times in the Old Testament. Exodus 3:8 would be one example. It's the first time that the phrase is mentioned, where God promises to rescue the Israelites from Egypt and bring them to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So because this is being delivered to us in literally American headline news from CNN, it is absolutely an opportunity for you to get God back into the conversation. You can say to people, well, do you actually know where that phrase comes from? A land flowing with milk and honey? There are 20 or more places that you could turn in the Old Testament to find it. You could Google it. You could pull up the verses on your phone and have a conversation. It's interesting that the media writ large is trying to figure out a way to cover the story because they want to support the U.S. version of Ben & Jerry, which is pretty anti-Semitic. And yet they want to highlight the social enterprise feature of what is happening at Ben & Jerry's Israel with this limited edition milk and honey ice cream flavor. So there you go. We do live in a day and a time when anything can be turned into a political conversation, including ice cream, but also including pregnancy. I don't know if you've seen any of this, but there are a number of people who are trying to politicize the fact that a number of families directly related to the White House, women serving at the White House, women married to men serving at the White House, are pregnant or having babies. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha, are expecting their fourth child. We got there's a number of people. And the outlets like the New York Times are now devoting resources and a focus on, quote unquote, the White House baby boom. And with articles like, peak feminist having babies. I mean, women in White House women have babies. Like, this is the natural order of things. And so when young women are involved in marriages, babies are produced. And so I don't know why we should be so surprised and certainly not flabbergasted by the fact that women of childbearing age who are married and happen to be serving in the Trump administration or married to members of the Trump administration are having babies. I mean, babies are great. Everybody should have babies. Everybody that's married should have babies. That would be I don't know why we should be surprised by it, but apparently there's a lot of surprise and a kind of astonishment that women, in this case, many of them working women, would also be having babies. But I mean, I'm just telling you, it's happening. Okay, let's take a brief break. When we come back, I do want to fill you in on something called wearable wellness. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a rise in consumer products that tell you that they're going to help you sleep better, and you can put them on. You're going to wear them. Or there are things that you can, obviously you can wear glasses and they'll help you see better. But now Meta has glasses that can help you see things that maybe other people didn't expect you to be able to see, and to record them and to do facial recognition and things like that. Wearable tech, we're going to talk a little bit about next. And then, yes, absolutely, the Friday Farm Report. You're listening to The Reconnect. All right, so you've got a pack of cards. You've heard of a pack of wolves. Maybe you have a backpack. You got a lot of packs in your life. But have you ever gotten a Faith Radio welcome pack? I mean, you might be brand new to Faith Radio, or you might just be new-ish, but either way, if you've never gotten a welcome pack, we'd like to welcome you. So text the word welcome to 877-933-2484 or visit myfaithradio.com and request your very own welcome pack today. Hello, my friend. You're listening to The Reconnect. I'm Carmen LaBerge, and you are going to see an increasing percentage of the population wearing technology. You might be wearing technology right now. I mean, you might have one of those Aura rings, or you might have a watch, an Apple Watch. That's wearable technology. Maybe you have a necklace that someone has said to you is going to positively affect your health. Maybe you've got some kind of band around your knee. You get the point. There's a lot of wearable wellness going on out there. And Nike is now definitely in on the game. So Nike has something called Mind Shoes. Mind Shoes. Now, mind you, the Mind Shoes are still worn on your feet. But it's sort of the latest advance in, quote, wearable technology. And Nike says that wearing these new Nike Mind Shoes is mind altering. It is a part of the passive neuro wellness wearable movement. And they're for sale around the globe, but I'll tell you that they're it's hard to find a pair. This is Nike's first foray into the, quote, neuroscience-based wearable technology world. But, smartwatches, fitness trackers, things that, track your sleep at night or that you even like wear on your head to help you sleep better at night, on and on and on. People are wearing all kinds of stuff, wearable technology. And so there's even a company out there that has a specialized fabric that's incorporated into a line of compression wear that they call, wearable lymphatic massage. So I'm just saying that, like, there's a lot going on in the marketplace in relationship to this. Millions of people have already signed up for Nike's restock notification as soon as the mind-altering shoes are available. And the key to all of this is Nike's claim that these 22 foam nodes that are spread across the bottom of the sole of each foot, that as the wearer treads on the ground, the nodes move independently to press against the foot's mechanoreceptors, which I don't know if you knew your foot had those, which are these sensory neurons responsible for identifying sensations like pressure and texture. So the goal here is to, I think, give you a little bit of a walking foot massage and activate your brain in different ways based on what you're walking on and how that is being transmitted through the foot to your brain. There you go. That's what's happening. Wearable wellness. It's an opportunity for us to talk about whether or not Christ is just a put on, right? Because the most mind-altering thing you should be putting on every day is Christ. And Christ should not just be a put on. Your mind should be renewed every single day by the word of God. And so over all things, Paul says, put on love. Like, right? So there's an opportunity here to talk about that. Are you putting on the full armor of God? Ephesians chapter 6. But I also think there is consideration here, particularly when we start talking about the new Meta glasses that are now widely available. And they're much cheaper. And so a lot more people are going to be buying them. Meta's new glasses, we circle back around to the conversations that we've had with friends like Austin Gravely here. And we talk about non-consensual recording. Like, you're not even aware that you're being recorded by that other person. You're certainly not necessarily being aware that their facial recognition integration is on. And so people who are wearing these glasses are able to identify people they don't even know because the internet knows who it is. And so there's a lot of data privacy issues, obviously personal privacy issues. There's an impact on public spaces. Imagine a person wearing these Meta glasses into the bathroom at a kid's camp, right? There's not a lot of monitoring going on at the YMCA in terms of who's in the bathroom. I'm just telling you right now, it's not. And so you send your kid into the bathroom. You don't know that there's a person in there with Meta glasses on. You just don't. You don't know that. And so even though you've done a really good job keeping your kid off of social media and their face out of places, that doesn't mean that in this new era, their privacy is not going to be impinged upon. Think about all of the things that you think are happening in private conversations and private meetings. You should now assume that everything is being recorded and subject to broadcast. I mean, I live in that world already, but welcome to it. Okay, quick Friday farm report. We've had a bumper crop of blueberries on the farm, and it's just delighting my heart. And for the first time in a number of years, we have blackberries, and so that is thrilling me. We washed the front of the house this week, and now the back of the house needs to be washed, and that is no small undertaking, but there you go. So yes, you can visualize Carmen with a high pressure, yes, power washer. Thank you, Paul. I was like, it's a thing that my hose is attached to and it blasts the water. There you go, power washer. And I have a host of new zucchini recipes because there's been a bumper crop. Now, next week, I want to tell you what is happening. Paul and I are taking a summer break. We're heading out for a week off. And so instead of hearing the Reconnect live and in person every single day, you're gonna hear something that Paul and I have worked very hard on, and it's called the Reconnect Revisited. And each day next week, we are focusing on one topic, bringing together a couple of conversations from episodes of the Reconnect, helping us reconsider one topic more deeply over the course of an hour. And so they lead off with our talking about the topic, just you and me, and then revisiting conversations that we have had around a particular subject matter area. We think that it's really wonderful content and programming and content that you're going to not only enjoy, but the kind that you'll want to share with other people. So enjoy 5 brand new episodes of the Reconnect Revisited, actually 10, because there's 2 each day, next week while Paul and I are on vacation. And after that, we would love to hear all of your reports from the 4th of July, how you celebrated the nation's 250th, the games you went to, the things you saw, the things you did, on and on and on. I'm going to be looking for those reports in the week following. So as you head out into the world that God so loves, I just encourage you to make Jesus known in ways that bring him glory. You're going to go out there and you are going to represent Christ. And yeah, we're going to celebrate the anniversary or the birthday of our country, but in the midst of that, we are going to be very faithful citizens of the kingdom of heaven and ambassadors of Jesus who is King. That's who we are, and that's what we're going to get out there and do. And so I'm going to encourage you to get God back into the conversations of the day, to spend some of your summer vacation in the Bible, like a little vacation Bible school of your own, little vacation Bible study. Open up your home and your heart to other people. Ask questions like, what do you think the temperature was in the Garden of Eden? I mean, as people across Europe are really suffering in extreme heat, what does that tell us about how far we live from the way in which God intended? I just think that at every turn, in every direction, there's an opportunity for you to bring God back into the conversations of the day. That's my heart. That's my passion. I encourage you to do it as well. And I want you to go out fully equipped for every good work that God has prepared in advance for you to do. I want you to know who you are and whose you are. I want you to know that you're blessed to be a blessing. And so as you take off out there into the world that God so loves in ways that honor Jesus, I encourage you to make him known, to go be shiny, to let your light so shine before others that, yes, they'll see your good works and they'll glorify God who is in heaven. We are blessed to be a blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. That's the peace of Christ, and it surpasses all understanding. And most of the world is not living in that peace. They don't know the Prince of Peace. You're going to go out there and make him known. People don't need another piece of your mind, but they do very much need the peace of the mind of Christ. So go out there and give it to them. Enjoy next week's episodes of the Reconnect Revisited, and we'll reconvene here after July the 4th. Have a great day, and God bless. Thanks for listening to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. Let us know how we can help you more fully reconnect the eternal with the everyday. We want to walk with you throughout your journey of discipleship, so let's connect. You can text us at 877-933-2484 or connect with us online at myfaithradio.com and on all our social media. I look forward to connecting with you as we each seek to reconnect the eternal with the everyday.